Now we are coming from the temple to the proscenium stage. I cannot expect a temple here. I cannot expect the same kind of audience. Ranga, 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 we have heard many times about Ranga. Natya Shastra, Bharata was very careful to speak about Ranga. And now we have realized the importance of Ranga very much. Why he started Natya Shastra even with Ranga, first chapter? Why? Because it is very important. In Manipur, I have seen the same temple performance. When the people are seated all around in the way it should be, according to tradition, the performance is so effective. It is, in fact, live via electricity. Anybody, even you, anybody sitting there, you'll be transformed into a kind of different person. The performance won't begin. The rituals are such. There is one man called Arangpham. He is the authority of that day. He brings you Dhupa Deepa Chandan in front of you. You accept that. The moment you accept that, then you are a bona fide audience. We call it bhavak. We don't call audience bhavak, a person who is authorized, who is a bhavak, who knows about rasa, who is allowed to sit in the auditorium. Performance also goes through the same ritual. Then you are bound by the rule of the performance. And after that, the instruments are worshipped, the usual ritual, purvaranga, etc., etc. That's all very elaborate. What I am trying to say is that in that atmosphere, seated in that atmosphere, the performance takes a completely different form. The flow of energy from the performer to the audience and back in the circular performance is very different. I remember one day, it started raining very heavily, and this temple was not very well protected. And the performance was shifted, and the audience had to sit on a side, and performance was taking on the other side, one side show. Then the whole show was spoiled. There was nobody crying. I mean, nothing could happen. So Ranga, when he said Ranga, the way people should be seated, the way one should react with each other, the kind of interaction is extremely important. Now we are transported in a completely new world of this variety, the kind of proscenium stage. Now we are thrown into a new situation where we don't know where we stand. I don't expect people to cry. I don't expect people to come and offer me clothes. I mean, it's a completely different world altogether. So we have to tune ourselves, to adjust ourselves according to times. This is what we are doing at the moment. A kind of change is taking place in Manipur. We are experimenting with very many new things, some good, some bad, some indifferent. That is bound to happen. We are not bothered about it. Because Bharata said very clearly that there are two siddhis. Deva Siddhi, we are not bothered about Deva Siddhi. We didn't have Deva Siddhi. It was raining very much today, but it has stopped. But Loka Siddhi is very, very important. Without Loka Siddhi, we cannot survive. Loka Siddham Bhavet Siddham, he said. And it is very, very important. And for Natya, Loka Siddha is Pramana. So we have to see, experiment, try out. And if we're lucky, we succeed. And we have gone a long way into doing this. Along with this, let me tell you also side by side the techniques we utilize. You have seen the last step. As used in Ras Leela, it's very soft. At the same time, the Tandava part in Ras is also very, very vigorous. Krishna does it in a kind of Tandava mode. Radha would be naturally soft movements, as we find in Bhangi Pare or in Chali. But when it comes to Krishna, naturally, we expect him to jump, to kind of run around. Naturally, that is the Tandava aspect of Jagoi. When you say Jagoi in Manipur, a person is dancing without holding a musical instrument. That is oftentimes, and without mistake, a Jagoi. This is Jagoi. Laharabha is Jagoi. Ras is Jagoi. Krishna, for example, this is Krishna's dance. Naturally, you introduce more jumps, and legs are lifted much higher. That is different. But when it comes to Cholom, it is completely different again. In Sankirtana, the musician dancers, those who are playing the drum, those who are playing the cymbals, their stance is completely different. With bent body, bent knee position, most of the movements are carried out in this, whether playing the drum or cymbals. And there will be lots of vigorous movements, acrobatics, the aerial turns and so on, Akashi Brahmari, and all kinds of Brahmari. It's indeed wonderful whatever they do, and it is changing from time to time according to demands. Can you imagine even the temple atmosphere in Manipur? Lots of changes are taking place. Even the young audiences in Manipur are now wanting some kind of a visual spectacle. That is why we introduce more of this Akashi Brahmari and so on, which were not so much in the olden times. Because since we have to survive by the offerings of the audience, Loka Siddhi we have to aim for, and in aiming for Loka Siddhi, in Manipur also we are conscious of speed now. And it has become, I don't know if it is a disease or a boon, nobody can see. But this is what is happening all over the world. All of a sudden we are exposed to a new world today, in the process of globalization. Every day we were so used to a very peaceful life, moving peacefully, and not bothered about anything else. Now all of a sudden we are exposed to lots of sights and sounds, we don't know what. Sitting in my house, I see, just to show an advertisement selling a simple thing like a hair oil or a soap, I'll be exposed to about 25 images per second on all kinds of things. And those eyes, addicted to that, may not be able to withstand the kind of very, very serious things. And people are afflicted by this disease, a kind of visual invasion. But what to do again? Loka Siddhi. So aiming for Loka Siddhi, at times many people are resorting to very loud sound, very fast speed, lots of things are happening. I don't think that is very healthy anyway, but let us hope it will settle down. Let us hope, because our traditions have been very strong, very, very strong indeed. I remember, all of a sudden I'm remembering a shloka from maybe Amrita Upanishad, yes. Pictures breaking again and again, again and again. I mean, it doesn't matter at all, because the whole thing is still continuing. Ghatavat Vedakaram Vidyamanam Puna Puna, that shloka I remember. In the same way, I mean, we'll be breaking, but the tradition, Indian tradition, which lives in this soil, in our hearts, is so strong. When Tagore was asked by somebody, how your tradition is surviving so strong, without disturbance, he answered, because our traditions, our cultures, do not depend on buildings. We depend on nature. We live under the trees. We get education under the trees. That's why we are surviving. Now I hope Charu has changed into the next costume to be able to show you the next item, in which I have also introduced some of the Thangta movements, which is new. Let me tell you what is Thangta, that is martial arts. Just two samples will convince you, will give a good idea. When you are holding the sword, for example, I was also trained to fight in childhood because I belonged to a peculiar family which needed every male member to fight. I was trained to be a horse rider and also a fighter. When you hold a sword, naturally your position is, or two swords. Or when you're holding a spear, the carry is very different. All this, one is sword, is thang, and spear movements would be ta. Bhagavati Stuti, in this I have tried to introduce Jagoi, Cholom, and a bit of Thangta in this. So, Charu, would you?